Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1.
The thinking atheist. It's not a person. It's a symbol. An idea.
The population of atheists in this country is going through the roof.
Rejecting faith. Pursuing knowledge. Challenging the sacred.
If I tell the truth, it's because I tell the truth. Not because I put my hand on a book and made a wish.
And working together for a more rational world.
Take the risk of thinking for yourself. Much more happiness, truth, beauty, and wisdom will come to you that way.
Assume nothing. Question everything. And start thinking. This is the Thinking Atheist Podcast. Hosted by Seth Andrews.
If you are already a listener to the God Awful Movies podcast with Eli Bosnick, Noah Illusions, and Heath Enright, you've probably already heard what I am republishing here. The guys gave me permission to share with this audience a broadcast that I guested on the 8th of April. They wanted help reviewing yet another Christian film. This one produced in 1980 called The Second Coming. It was made by a Christian filmmaker, and I'm being generous when I call him a filmmaker, Ron Ormond. And I think they had thought it was my first appearance. We had a conversation. I've actually been on GAM once before a few years ago. That's beside the point. Anyway, the next 2 hours consists of 4 heathens reviewing yet another dystopian film about the rapture. Jesus has returned. The Antichrist has dominion. People are taking the mark of the beast. There's a global military force persecuting Christians. And yes, a man who didn't think he needed God. And boy, was he wrong. Oh, Heath, Noah, and Eli are masters at lampooning this stuff. They describe the film. We give our thoughts. That is what you are about to hear in this bonus broadcast, which is free to everybody, including my patrons. Just something I wanted to share here on my channel. The link to the film, which is online in its entirety, The Second Coming. I have put that link in the show notes in case you're just that much of a masochist. I have also linked the God Awful Movies podcast in the description box as well. Okay, here we go.
Welcome back to the Gamcast, where each week we sample another selection from Christian cinema because after the first 500, we're finally all warmed up. I'm your host, Noah Illusions, and sitting 700 miles to my immediate left is my good friend Heath Enright. Heath, welcome back.
We got Ron Ormond. I'm so excited.
I can't believe there's more Ron Ormond after 500 episodes. And sitting 900 miles to my northeast is my bad friend Eli Bosnick. Eli, how are you this fine afternoon, sir? Exactly.
Eli's also excited about Ron Ormond.
Same. And we're also excited to welcome in an old friend, but a first-time guest masochist. Seth Andrews is the host of the Thinking Atheist podcast and the author of Deconverted, Sacred Cows, Confessions of a Former Fox News Christian, and Christianity Made Me Talk Like an Idiot. Love that title. And he's got a voice made of pure caramel. Seth, welcome to the show.
It's so kind of you to say. I had somebody on the Facebook page said, honey covered thunder.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I'm putting that on a business card. So.
Fuck, yeah.
But is this my first tango with you guys?
This is your first time, yeah.
We did a show together on my channel. We were covering, I think, one of the Thief in the Night movies or Super Christian or one of the classics, so it is good to be here.
Yeah. We've done a couple on your show. I've had you on Scathing before, but this is your first foray into God Awful Movies.
Well, I am loaded up with caffeine and existential dread, so it should be a good broadcast today.
Excellent.
And my apologies, too. And so I've got my 2 unofficial mascots. I've got Linus and Gracie, my 2 dogs. And like just right before I went live with you guys, I hear the sound that no pet owner wants to hear, which is that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, my God. I thought it was the cat. But I turn around, it's Gracie, and she vomited up one of those hair ties that Natalie uses to put her hair up in a ponytail.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm like, oh my God, what else is down there? So I've
Right,
watched
there's a
enough-
license plate coming. Yeah.
Yeah, I've watched enough vet shows to know that I think we're okay. I think there was only one on the ground, but I'm watching her. So if during the reviews while we're doing the show, if you hear, it is not Eli Bosnick. It is probably my cat
Well,
or dog.
We should never make that
I
promise.
was going to say, given the movie we're going to be talking about, it really could be any of us
It could
reliving
be,
this.
yeah.
But yeah, also could be the dog.
Gracie's just like, are you watching a Ron Ormond movie right now? That's what this is.
Yeah, right.
I was saving this hair tie for later, but now that I know Ron Ormond's on the screen.
Yeah. All right. So tell us, Heath, what will we be breaking down today?
We watched The Second Coming. It's the story of any minute now.
Yes.
They're going to get it.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
This was in 1980s.
Right. Yeah. No, that
Hasn't
made
quite worked out yet.
made it all the more fun. And Eli, how bad was this movie?
Well, if you love the Christploitation films of Ron Ormond, and Lord Almighty, I do, but you wish it was mostly a mega cut of Ron's favorite preachers in order of their literal squareness, you will love this movie. I think this might be a prequel to the fucking Number Blocks, everybody.
Sure.
I think there's a good chance.
They all look like the Polygon team that killed Kennedy. Like all of them together.
Can I ask a stupid question? I don't want to insult your audience that probably already knows the answer. I don't know anything about Ron Ormond. You're talking about him like he's an old friend.
I mean, in many ways to us he is,
Yeah.
but I can understand why no one. So Ron Ormond was a exploitation filmmaker who found Jesus, right? Well, his wife found Jesus, which means he found Jesus. And then he started making Christian films, but he didn't learn how to make movies just because he started believing in the Lord. So he made a series of incredible films. This is the final one, but he also made If Footmen Tire You, What Will Horses Do?, where communist Cubans behead children and offer them
We watched that
candy
one
in
together,
exchange for
actually, Seth.
Jesus.
That's right. I
Yeah.
was there for that one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Burning Hell, which was mostly him standing around a big fire pit dressed as Moses. So you can see he saved all the good stuff for the last one.
All right.
Yeah, a couple of our favorite all-time films come from Ron Ormond. So now, obviously, you're not familiar with this movie, but did it give you Christianity flashbacks, Seth?
You know, it really did. We'll probably talk about this a little bit during the review, but a lot of these films are cut from the same cloth. You know, they're shot for about $1.50. Half of the film takes place inside somebody's church sanctuary. Like, it's almost like, okay, in the budget, we have enough to go over here to a rocky place and maybe afford some bathrobes and somebody grab my wife's eye makeup because we got to have somebody who looks like the devil. So we're going to go blue on the eyes and then red for the robe. And then the rest of it is always in some old school 1970s church sanctuary with the wooden pews and the 70s paneling on the back. So they all kind of, and it really does take me back to that era. It's like a time machine for the 1970s and 80s.
Yeah,
It's
which
fun.
is horrifying all by itself.
They had to do the apocalypse a little bit. So at some point, someone's like, who knows somebody with a rubble pile?
Yeah,
And they like had to go to a rubble.
Everyone raised their hands.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So is there anything you guys want to nominate this one for being the best at being the worst at?
Yeah, I'm going to go with best worst. Up next, suggestions.
Oh, really?
From the Internet Archive Christian movie section where we watch this. For me, all of the up next suggestions were Steve Anderson, the hate pastor.
Oh
who
my
we covered
God.
on Scathing Atheist a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. That's pretty bad. All right. So I was going to go with best worst. Sure, the guy died, but I think we can take all these clips and still make a movie out of them. I have seen Plan 9 from outer space. I am aware of Plan 9, and I am still making that claim because that's what happened with this movie is that Ron Ormond died. He had filmed a few clips for God knows how the fuck he was going to tie all this together, and he left all these people standing around going like, well, I mean, we could probably get 56 minutes out of this.
If my cousin is willing to run through a field for like 33 minutes,
right,
I
yes.
think we've got a movie, boys. I think we've got a movie.
It's almost like a director's version of Weekend at Bernie's. They just drug him in there and then roped him into a chair.
Weekend at Francis Ford Coppola's.
Seth, do you have a best worst for us?
I had a couple of best worst. I had mostly best. I had best use of preachers wearing Jeffrey Dahmer glasses. Have you noticed that?
Yep.
And I had best God voice by a human who already sounded like AI, even though it was 1980. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
It sounded very AI-y for 4.5 decades ago.
And I'm going to go with best unnecessary Darth Vader helmet.
It's the best.
As Noah teased, it's pretty obvious where Ron's hand lays on this film, and it mostly lies on a prop helmet that we will speak about when we get to it.
All right, well, I'll tell you what, we've been saving this one, so we're going to take another minute or two to savor it before we jump in, but we'll be back in a minute with all the disjointed scaremongering that is It's About the Second Coming. Or just the second coming, depending on who and when you ask. Ron, I can't tell you how excited we are for your final film, It's About the Second Coming.
This one is sure to convince people.
Indeed it is, brother Ron.
Okay, so what were you thinking?
Well, to begin, I thought we could have a few preachers talk about the rapture.
I love it.
Then perhaps we lay out the sacrificial tradition of Christ through a few biblical reenactments.
A wonderful way to spread the word of the Lord.
Right. But then there's a young man who's gone astray.
Ooh, relevant.
Yeah. He gets chased by space Nazis and then karate fights people outside a bar.
Sorry, karate fights.
But of course they catch him and the mole people slit his throat with a slowly lowering torture blade.
Damn it, Ron. You almost made it through the whole movie this time.
I know, this is draft like 45.
Got it. Yeah. And we're back for the breakdown, and we're going to open the movie up by giving Seth those flashbacks that we were talking about via a preacher named Tim Green. Now, he's going to, thank us in advance for watching the movie, basically. Right? So much of this movie is just padding the runtime, so he's just going to show up and go me and Ron Ormond made this movie.
Yeah. I like how it starts where he does that oh, hello.
Mm-hmm.
Just reading my favorite book. It's called The Bible. Maybe you've heard of it. It felt like racist Mr. Rogers is about to start.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Mr. Rogers, there goes the neighborhood.
When he said, I worked with Ron Ormond, I wrote in my notes, okay, I want to hear literally all of your stories,
right.
Tim, 100% of them.
Yeah, so Tim promises us a panorama. He's telling us, he's basically you just this movie that you are about to watch, it is so fucking good. You guys are going to see, quote, a panoramic view of the end times. I didn't find it all that panoramic.
By which he means stock footage of war stuff later.
A panoramic film in 4:3 aspect ratio. Oh,
Yeah.
Enjoy that. Yeah.
And then, of course, he talks directly to us, right? He's like, and for those non-Christians watching the movie, Jesus is coming and you're going to be super, super sorry. We're going to hear that a lot.
Yeah.
It's all the funnier because he's because everybody keeps saying in this movie, is any minute Jesus will be here. This movie was made 45 years ago.
Look, there's nothing like a rapture movie where everyone involved is dead. You know,
right.
It's really, it warms the heart.
I was struck by, they always seem to drop these Old Testament pastors in front of what looks like an old linoleum set, those ones where they sort of paint the bricks onto it. And I'm sorry, but late 20th century conservative pastors, Protestant pastors, all look like they just got cranked out of the same assembly line. I mean, they're all about 6 foot, check. They got a gray suit, check, because they don't want anything too ostentatious. They got white hair, check. Skin that looks like pinky mice, check. They appear mildly constipated, check. I mean, it's the same freaking thing. And how many pastors were in this movie? I think I counted 5.
I think 5.
It's hard to say if they're not all the same one or 5 different ones.
That is very difficult.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and they're all walking like they don't want to bend the knees in their pants and stuff. Yeah, it's interesting. So then I guess the movie proper kicks in, right? We got our generic narrator in the back, and he's going
spoiler, it doesn't actually, but sort of.
No, you're right. Actually, this is still pre-movie. There is so much time padding.
Ron wasn't around to show them what order the movie goes in.
So we get this voiceover that's just since the beginning of Christianity, preachers have been saying that Jesus would return any minute. Oh God, why are we pointing that out?
And it's kind of like instructions for the end times, I guess. It felt like one of those Cold War videos for like duck and cover, but
yeah, right.
Apocalypse.
Right.
But for sword mouth Jesus,
Yeah, you just got to get under your desk and sword mouth Jesus can't get you.
Horse locusts.
The horse
can't get you.
locusts, they're just going to like hover right over that desk, can't get under.
Yep.
Did you notice how evangelist Tim Green was selling the movie as something remarkable because it has been seen all around the world? Like anything that spreads is good. And like, you know what else has been seen around the world? Cholera,
AIDS,
murder
Right,
hornets,
yes.
Michael Bay movies. These have all been seen all around the world. I also find it suspicious, and I know you guys have already gone there. We have another piece of Christian media with a title that sounds like porn. And this was true when I was in Christian radio.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, think about how many American Christian Puritans grew up singing stuff like, he touched me, pour my love on you. Yes, yes, Lord, right? So I don't think this is low-hanging fruit when I say the second coming sounds like Jesus is going to return wearing a ball gag. I don't think that is too much of a stretch, but that's just me.
Well, you got to stretch it a little for it to work, but yes, it's not too much.
Stretch it too. That's how you end up with low-hanging fruit. Stretch it too much. Sure, you're young. You can stretch your fruit as much as you want. Hit your 30s, they stop coming back.
Yeah, damn it.
God, your punchlines are so much better than mine. They're just so good.
Then we're going to meet a series of preachers, right? All of them apparently distinct human beings based on the names. First, we meet Dr. Bob Gray, who looks like, I wrote in my notes, he looks like his wife hates him and that's his whole personality.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. I have Dr. Bob looks like an insurance salesman if you could buy insurance for rape accusations.
And he's going to deliver the first like chunk of this, if Jesus comes and you're not Christian, you're fucked sermon, which is what they're all going to do. We also meet Dr. John Rawlings, who he looks like a scary version of Vincent Price.
Yes.
Think about that.
Yeah, he looks like he was there when Jesus was killed and he's overcompensating, right?
Yeah.
Oh, is this the guy who turns into the narrator who has
like
time
who
out
keeps showing up?
throughout the rest of the movie?
Right, yeah.
Who I'm convinced killed all the other pastors in some kind of octagon situation, which is why he got to continue narrating the movie.
Yeah, right.
Like if Salvador Dali forgot to be interesting and became a pastor.
There you go.
He's Salvador Dali's accountant brother.
Yeah.
We also meet Dr. Greg Dixon. These guys should not be allowed to use doctor before the names. I don't know why I'm playing along.
Especially when you look like a 70s game show host about the apocalypse as a game somehow. Or whatever. Yeah.
And Dixon is almost handsome. It's actually a little tragic because he looks like if you dressed Josh Groban up like a ventriloquist dummy and made him eat a peanut butter M&M every time someone fucked to one of his songs. It's so close.
Jesus, what is wrong with you people? Who thinks like this?
He looks like the president of Argentina right now also.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right. But that speaks to because Seth is talking about how these guys all look like they've just been assembled on the same assembly line. That almost handsome thing is part of it, right? Like you can't be too handsome. You can't get people all hot and bothered in the fucking. That's why they kicked Seth out ultimately, right? That's why they couldn't have him anymore.
Oh, stop. I was listening to these guys sort of setting things up. And of course, they go right to the book of Revelation, which is just a fever dream of what the fuckery, right? But, I'm like, if you're going to make an end times movie, I think you have a theological obligation to include some of the stuff that they did not include. Because we think about Revelation, we have all kinds of shit that they missed. The 7-headed dragon riding space prostitute,
Thank
right?
you.
The whore of Babylon.
The singing eyeballs.
Yeah, the Kraken, the horse locusts. The whole time I was mad that they weren't
The
doing it.
stars falling to the
I'm just saying, you call Phil Tippett, the legendary stop motion puppeteer, and you're like, look, I need a 7-headed dragon riding space prostitute tonight or tomorrow, right?
And he's got one. He's got one. He's ready. He's ready. That was in his private collection, but you can use it if you don't ask questions about the stains.
We've watched something like, I'm going to say conservatively, I think we've watched about 50 Rapture movies, and there's only been one that didn't chicken out when it came to the scorpion horse locusts. right? The third Thief in the Night movie, I think they actually had like you saw it in a silhouette or whatever.
Like a shadow.
Yeah.
And it was definitely somebody who had that at home, and they were like, "Yeah, no, I'll make that new."
Yeah. Yep. But Dr. Greg Dixon, I'm going to stop calling him fucking Dr. Greg Dixon, he's given his, like, Jesus will be back. And he goes, we know Jesus is coming back because the Bible says Jesus is coming back, right? Which is a ridiculous fucking argument. But instead of just finding, because you can't find any clear biblical evidence of the rapture, right? Because the rapture's not in the goddamn Bible. So instead he uses this quote that's all just ambiguous as fucking hell. He goes like, that Jesus is coming back because the Bible says that we should shun the frumious bandersnatch. And you're just like, what the fuck does that even mean, man?
Yeah. Whenever we get to this part of a rapture movie where preachers have to pretend the rapture isn't a construction of 1949 or whatever the hell it became a part of their religion.
Right.
It's like reading text with your friends in college. Like, what do you think she meant by I had a good time? It's like, oh, God. Jesus is just not that into you guys.
And then the movie Bibles at us for a little while over a night sky.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh, Peter Jackson wishes his walking montages were this boring.
Okay, well, we're going to get to the walking. But we start off with, we have to meet Abraham, right? We see Abraham, very white Abraham sitting out there by his tent. And then God speaks up and he's like, hey, kill your kid for me.
They're starting with the kill your son test in their Christian movie. That was a bold move.
He was kind of a Peter O'Toole's alcoholic cousin kind of a guy, wasn't he? That dude.
It was more of a God drunk dial than a commandment.
Right, yeah, right. Well, and that's why Abraham has this look on his face like, oh, okay, I guess. That's weird.
You fucking love me, you kill your son. I don't know. You prove it.
Kill him.
So
I always like to play this little game during Bible movies that are period pieces. I always think about the pre-production meetings where they have these pasty white preacher types all in a back room trying to talk about, well, which area has the most Old Testament looking rocks?
Yes, right. Yeah, exactly. Where can we drive in a day?
We want brown, but not too brown. We want dusty and worn, but it can't be a ruin. We want smooth contours, but we don't want something that looks sprayed on or fake. We want a place that's hot enough to make everybody look happy they're not wearing pants. They're all going through these lists of requirements for what looks Bible-y. That's a half a day's travel.
Guys, I want a Jewish rock. You know what I mean when I say that, right?
Well, and then also, you have to picture on the way, they all stop at the Bed Bath & Beyond, and they have this whole, we can't all have the same dish towels, guys. Come on. We have to all pick something different. I already have blue. I called it.
They actually take the tablecloths and you just wrap them around their heads like scarves, and that becomes an actual costume element in the film. I mean, they were on a budget. So.
Right.
One guy definitely has the tablecloth from his local Italian restaurant on his head.
Oh, absolutely.
In this movie, yeah.
I had one more thought about this whole child sacrifice thing. This is probably 10 years ago. Just as a social experiment, I went on social media and I said, okay, fellow heathens, I want you to go to the religious people in your life. And I want you to ask one question and then come back and tell me what they said. Just paste it into the comments. I said, if God appeared to you as he appeared to Abraham and he commanded you to sacrifice your child as an act of obedience, would you do it? Now, unsurprisingly, almost all of the responses were no. Almost. But there were a few terrifying replies from devout believers who said, God demanded it, God's law trumps man's law, and my kid would go to heaven anyway. There was one responder who asked if they could pick the child.
Oh my God. Davey, yes.
There's got to be a few people who are like, Isaac's a pain in the ass. So, sure.
Yeah.
And then he gets stopped by God. Oh, all right.
Oh, I'm so disappointed.
I was going to turn his room into kind of
really
an office for woodworking, but
I want to get a Peloton. So
no, we'll go home and he can steal my blessing.
So we watch Abraham and Isaac walk for so goddamn long.
It's such an awkward Bible story. He's about to murder his son. He's like, hey, bud, we're just going to do a little normal walking, right? Totally cool. And Isaac's doing the golden retriever thing, like checking in every few steps, like running ahead a little bit, looking back.
Yes, yeah, we're still
He's
going.
like, yeah, no.
Can't believe he hasn't said cut.
I'm not going to kill you. I don't know why I said that, but I'm not going to kill you. Just build a fire pit shaped like you. I don't know. We're just
Right.
We're just playing games.
I always pictured the altar as being like, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet tall. Like for some reason, in my brain, it's like an altar. And in the movie, it looks like he just threw some Home Depot pavers on the ground.
Yeah.
And just said, fuck it.
Yep.
Right. I mean, don't half-ass your human sacrifice, right? The higher the rock pile, the sooner your kid can get to God is kind of my thinking.
You've only got one son. Do it once, do it right. You know what I'm saying?
And, I had this thought when he grabs his son's hands and he ties them with the belt. I just got this distinct vibe that he had done this before. I mean, Isaac just stands there like, oh shit, is it Thursday again?
Yes, the kid fights back not at all. He's just like, oh, Dad, always tying me up and throwing me on fire pits. So,
let's see where Dad's going with this.
But of course, as we know, he's about to stab Isaac, and God comes in and he's like, gotcha, you were going to do it. You should have seen the look on your fucking face, man. You were just...
He's going to stab him with a knife that looks like it was torn out of an Amazon Prime shipping box. It's like the bluntest instrument ever made.
Right.
It's like, just lay there, kid. This is going to take a really long time.
But then, God says, you don't have to do it. And he's like, oh, good. And then a lamb shows up all, hey, what are you guys doing? And I don't understand why they would show us the lamb.
Is that in the Bible?
Yes.
Does it switch to a literal lamb?
Yes, because for some reason in the story, God's like, no, you don't have to. I mean, you have to kill something for me. Something must die on my behalf now, but not your kid.
We're not killing nothing today.
Yes,
Okay.
right. But knowing that's what happens, why would you show me the cutest goddamn animal in the fucking world in this little lamb right beforehand? And we're like, and then this lamb showed up. Look how cute it is. We murdered it.
Yeah. Or lean in and show them just like watching a lamb in a bonfire awkwardly for a while.
Oh, yeah.
I think in the Bible it says it's a ram, which is one of those stupid pedantic things. It's like when someone says, oh, Jonah wasn't swallowed by a whale. It was a big fish.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Now the story makes sense. Thank you, Grandma.
Right, but it's not an accidental mistake, right? Because they want to tie this to Jesus and say, because that's one of the things they love to do is like, hey, right, the Lamb of God, just like you know who. And so, in case anybody wasn't going to get it, they actually like dissolve to the cross, to Jesus on the cross from the Lamb.
Lambsifix.
Yes.
Don't they claim the behemoth was a hippo or something like that to make it all
Sometimes, or a dinosaur.
Take some of the danger out of it. I've heard hippos will fuck you up.
Yeah, hippos are fucking worse. Yeah.
Really, really. Lambs and goats and rams, I feel bad because if you read the Bible, they are constantly, so they take human sin and they grab it and they throw it into these poor animals. And then they slaughter the animals. Now, here's a piece of trivia. You guys may know this. In the book of Leviticus, there were blood offerings, atonement offerings. And then there was one version where they would take the sin of the Israelites and they would transfer them into a goat. And then they would release the goat out into the wilderness to ostensibly, I guess, starve to death. And that's where we get the term scapegoat. That was the escape goat. And it went out there.
Wow.
You could also do that with a chicken if you get enough centrifugal force going.
One of the least dangerous games.
But how culty is blood sacrifice? I mean, blood on the altar, blood of the lamb. There's songs like Nothing But the Blood. There was a guy on Twitter a few years ago who posted, he was an ex-Christian. He said, I cannot believe I used to sing about being washed in blood like it was totally normal. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like I remember like the Christian kids at my school trying to tell me that candy canes, the red on the candy cane represents the blood of Christ. And I'm like, well, it's so much less appetizing now. Jesus. What the hell is wrong with you people?
Feels like a bad thing for you guys.
Right. No, we drink it. We love the blood. What? So yeah, we dissolved to Jesus on the cross.
And it's the shape of a J like Jesus.
Yep.
Oh man, I just thought of that.
And it's the shepherd's crook and everything. They have a whole thing like 9 ways that the candy cane represents Christ.
This actually tracks pretty well. I'm going to think about Christianity.
If you fold the candy cane, it's the Twin Towers.
Well, yeah. No.
Jesus.
But the narrator kicks in and he's like, yeah, see, Jesus on the cross. He goes, it was on this mountain. And then they cut to the fucking Castle Grayskull play set or whatever, right? With three little crosses on it.
This is my first diorama of the Jesus Mountain. I fucking love it. My wife can whip you up one of those mountain dioramas. No need to bring the camera all the way out to the countryside.
Yeah, right. So we cut to Jesus post-betrayal. They show this all out of order, but we meet the very white Pontius Pilate.
Well, hang on. I got some thoughts on the cross, if I may.
By all means.
I know you want to jump to the Monty Python scene. Oh, shit. I just blanked on it. What did they call him?
Build a bridge out of him.
What did they call that guy, Monty Python? Oh, your listeners are going to crucify me. I want to talk about the utter impracticality of the positions of the crosses on that high mountain, which was a cliff. And the crosses are right at the edge of the cliff. And I'm like, who thought that shit up? Like, okay. Okay.
Right.
You Roman soldiers who are on cross duty today, make sure you've got the proper shoes on, stay at least 10 feet from the edge, or you're going to end up just like Bob. That's exactly what I was thinking when I saw the cross.
Wait, what happened to Bob?
Giving the guys on the crosses a big speech about not rocking back and forth because you got to use those crosses later.
9 days without an accident at this location.
Yeah, right.
OSHA is going to give us a... Yeah.
Oh, guys, you faced him towards the cliff. Now, how are we going to see him to make fun of him and shit? So we get our Pontius Pilate, right? And of course, like the narrator comes in and is like, Pontius Pilate didn't want to kill Jesus. It was the Jews. So we get like a first person Jesus torture moment.
Okay, this is great because right after the crown gets put on our head, we get the one shot of a guy getting whipped, and it's just the one shot of a guy getting whipped because they very obviously actually whipped Larry, and he turned around and he was like, what the fuck, Chris? Ow! We better have gotten that fucking shot because I'm going to punch Chris in the eye now.
Just got this from Bed Bath & Beyond. Now it's got a rip.
Yeah, right.
You've ruined my wife's towels.
I can't take it back now. But we see Jesus get nailed to the cross, right? Because they absolutely have to show us the hand with the nail through it. And then the narrator cuts in. He's like, but don't worry, this was totally God's plan. He meant for it to go like this, as much as it might not look that way. Then we get a quick scene of pre-crucified Jesus giving his sermon on the Mount of Olives. And I'm just like, put your scenes in order. You may not know what Ron Ormond had in mind, but you know what order these fucking shots go in.
Damn it, Ron didn't label the reels.
So
Scotch tape?
Well, I'm a voiceover guy. So, even when I was a devout Christian, I remember hearing narrators for Christian productions. I would just laugh out loud, right? We'd be at a church play and there was always this disembodied God voice. And it's like James Earl Jones, if you bought him on Temu kind of thing, they always find somebody. Their only qualification is that their voice hits about 100 hertz and they're not already out, using that voice at the bar to try to pick up women, right? I mean, because that's essentially who that guy probably is. This guy's name is John Calvert in the film. I do not know anything about him, but that guy was out doing his work in voice and other aspects of his life. And sitting down at the edge of the bar going, so, the Lord said that I'm your destiny.
So you honestly, like, hearing Seth trying to do a deep voice is kind of like seeing what happens when Thor's hammer hits Captain America's shield, in a sense, for me.
It's good. Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting. So but Jesus is crucified. We see the very culturally sensitive disciples listening intently. And then we watch Jesus ascend to heaven, and my God, it's glorious.
Yeah, not enough movies do heaven Jesus ascension with a boo sound effect. Highly recommend.
Why does the depiction of Jesus on the cross make it look like they crucified Roger Rabbit? I mean, I don't understand why Jesus is a carpenter and he's a God man, and his arms look like drinking straws. I don't understand that.
I always get the silhouette there on that one. They're really nervous about trying to show Jesus's face here, so we're constantly going to see him in silhouette and whatnot as well.
That's why I like the Italians. They're not afraid of a ripped Jesus.
Yeah,
you go to an Italian chapel, you see a Jesus with a 12-pack, cum gutters ready.
Fuck yeah.
Looks like a Trump coin or something.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Did you just say the word cum gutter?
Cum gutter. gutters. That's what they're called.
Obliques.
That's what the kids
Other
are calling
people
them.
call them obliques. But you know.
Look, there are not many
Some
ways.
people do it with fat instead of muscle. You can gutter it up however
Jesus,
you
no,
want.
we cannot be friends. I'm blushing over here.
Seth, why did you go back for clarification, man? You got to learn to just push through, right?
You're right,
So
you're right,
if you know, if you want to be friends with
If I've
Eli,
told you once, I've told you 1,000
What
times.
was I thinking? Asking you to elaborate.
Everybody Google cum gutters if you're
no.
curious.
Okay.
Everyone Google
Make
Seth
sure-
Andrews cum
Oh my
gutters.
God!
.com.
1 second, I have a website.
Make sure
to buy.
your safe search is off. Okay.
The God Awful Movies review of The Second Coming continues right after this. Only 30 minutes in, and we are just getting warmed up as I join the God Awful Movies crew reviewing the Ron Ormond film, The Second Coming.
Now we are 10 minutes. We're like 25 minutes into the movie. We're 10 minutes into the movie. This is a 57-minute movie. This is where we get the title. It's like a fucking episode of Invincible.
I was so mad. I was like, the movie's starting now? That's bullshit. Like, the chess clock was going.
Yes,
This counts. Like, I'm already in.
right.
Be honest.
Now, the original title, the movie is now called The Second Coming, but the original movie title was It's About the Second Coming, because you want the title to tell your audience what the movie is about, I guess. And then we get like the end credits, like end level credits. Now, there was a time like credits migrated to the end of the movie. They started out at the beginning of them and they eventually just got so damn long we had to put them at the end. This movie was made before that migration was complete, apparently.
I did enjoy one thing about the credits. They are doing some music, and the triangle player of this orchestra is going buck wild on triangle.
Truly.
Like, he's the cowbell guy, and he is psyched about it.
So we also, okay, so here's what I love about the credits. First of all, they had a list of guest preachers, as though some of the preachers lived in this movie. And also, they had a special thanks for Ruby Tuesdays. So,
What did Ruby Tuesdays do to earn that credit? That's what I want to know, because that must have been at a corporate level.
they probably hooked them up with the ketchup,
yeah.
right? Like, yeah.
And then they've got that line that says, "Thank you to the folks at Mammoth Onyx Cave in Kentucky," which I guess had really good biblical looking rocks or whatever.
Oh, must have been. That's
And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I looked it up. The rock beds of Mammoth Cave formed like 300 million years ago.
Allegedly.
The water flows formed the cave 15 million years ago. Okay, so actors are telling an Old Testament story in a natural set, which itself disproves young Earth creation.
Not great.
I just think that's awesome.
oh, well done.
They just have to like fuzz out the sedimentary layers that you can see.
Yep. It's pixelated like Japanese porn. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so the credits end. We get this, the angels appear to the disciples post-ascension and tell them to get to acting, right? You know, it's like, we got a whole nother fucking book we got to do. What are we going to fill the whole damn thing with letters?
Yeah. Angel guy comes in and he's like, hey, so that was the and magic trick. Jesus did it. It was like an applause sign for a live studio audience.
Yes,
It was
right.
fun.
Yeah.
And the way they depicted his death, it's really remarkable that Jesus did rise again, because the guy hammering in the nails looked pissed, like he had had a fight with his wife on the way out the door, and he was just sitting there with the big sledge, Jesus, and laying there. He's like, "What do you mean I never do the dishes?"
I do.
What if I told you you were like just like your mother? Bam! You know, what if I slaughtered meat with the good scissors? Bam! He just literally just pounded the shit out of Jesus. So the fact that Jesus could recover from that, to me, it does sound rather divine.
Pretty impressive. Pretty
But
impressive.
don't use the good scissors.
So, okay. So then we see that we go straight from the angels going like, all right, so Jesus ascended. Now it's time for the book of Acts. We go straight from there to a city, like a modern city, right? And this scroll comes along on the bottom, and the scroll is way too long. I almost went with this for the best verse. It goes, the time, someday in the future. And I'm like, that's the date. That's not even the time.
You could just say future. Like,
Right.
we'll
Yep,
know it's
that's
someday.
the only word that matters. Yes, exactly.
That's the Chiron of a religion that's been wrong for 2,000 years and counting, my friends.
So then it goes, worldwide mandate. No one allowed to buy or sell without global identification. And of course, we had to all have that moment where like, what a weird thing to be afraid of, right?
Yeah. You could just ban one of those and it kind of like works to ban the other
Yeah,
one.
really, honestly.
Just make it less red tape, you know?
Right, yeah, no, absolutely. And then it says, and I guess this is supposed to be ominous, this is all the same bottom of the screen. It's like scrolling across like a fucking ticker. It goes, violators will be dealt with on location by global police.
Right. So we're getting a bunch of rules. Are people in this universe supposed to like read the text on the bottom of the screen of the world they're in?
Interesting, yeah. So then we get that little scroll, and then we see a goddamn clown car of global police.
I think it's cool that the global police all ride Zambonis in the future. That's an interesting choice.
Right, so they've got like 5 people all just hanging off of this little fucking car. It's just hilarious.
And they have really silly like you remember Spy Tech, the toy for kids from like 1990 with like the big radar thingy, and it's all very silly, oversized spy stuff. They all have like a piece of that, each of them, and they fought over it for sure.
It reminded me of that. Remember that video game shooter? I want to say it came out in the 1990s where it was like Area 51 or something.
Yes.
All the baddies came out and they jump behind a barrel and all you did was just shoot randomly. And then all of a sudden there would be a civilian, like a woman in a miniskirt would pop out and they'd go, no.
Yeah.
And you're not. I literally saw that street and I thought, oh my God, I've gone back in time 30 years. This is like an Area 51 video game.
I'm about to put $40 worth of quarters into something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So we got one guy, he's got the big radar gun. Another guy he's just randomly in a motorcycle helmet.
But he's the only guy.
Yeah.
He's the only guy who gets a helmet. Like that was also a huge fight. Who gets to be the helmet guy?
I didn't realize Daft Punk put out albums and starred in films.
Christian right. And hunted
Such a
Christians
Daft
on their
Punk
side.
album. Yeah.
Yeah, no, like apparently they were like, well, the kids loved this shit when Darth Vader did it, so give the bad guy a helmet, and we're talking George Lucas money. But they're hunting Christians. Apparently they're listening for Christians with the radar gun.
Mm-hmm.
Or people who are, buying / selling / trucking, exchanging, bartering. I don't know. They're going after fugitives of some sort.
Well, yeah, but they're listening
With
for
radar?
people. Yeah, with radar.
Right.
They're listening for people buying without the tattoo with radar.
It can sense the velocity of money. You can tell if you're transacting.
This blip looks extremely divine and holy.
Yeah.
We must now. Yeah.
Well, so they drive on and with the very, very quiet, they're hunting Christians thing. And as they do, a family of Christians emerges from the bushes, right? And the dad gives this whole speech where he's like, if we could just make it through this scene.
Clang, smash, boom, bang. Don't worry, Papa. I'll juggle our silverware as we go across the street.
So the kid bangs into a bunch of trash cans, and of course they hear him on the radar. So the Christians go get him.
And did you notice the guy in the Daft Punk helmet? When he spoke, I thought he sounded like kind of a redneck version of like somebody who just parked his tractor in the field. And then he tried to speak like Werner Herzog. He was like,
yes,
tell me about your everlasting life. It literally had that kind of vibe. And then he shoots what looked like a Han-shot first blaster. Did you guys notice the gun?
Oh, a little wire.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Pyrotechnics guy got to do some work. He was in the credits. I was excited when I was like, pyrotechnics in the credits. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So we got some here. I will say my favorite part of this character, the Daft Punk helmet guy, is that the visor part of the helmet has a very slow, like mechanical up button for it to like raise up so he could like look at you and then do his Werner Herzog speech.
Like a fucking garage door opening. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wanted it to get stuck and for him to have to lower it down.
I wrote exactly that. I was like, I want so bad for this to be like halfway up. And he says, just give me a second.
Oh, I'll do it with my hands. Fuck it. Well, also, and this has made all the funnier.
I broke the gear. I'm going to have to get a new one.
Well, it's made all the funnier by the fact that he has a mustache. So it's like popping out under the fucking helmet and everything. And he's like, but he finally gets it up and he's talking to the dad and he goes, your Christ has been dead for centuries. And the dad goes, no, he lives. Dude smacks the shit out of him.
No, I think it was, your Christ has been dead for centuries.
Yeah.
He goes, no, we'll have everlasting life. He goes, oh, tell me about this everlasting life when I've got you killed in this fucking gutter over here, huh? Huh? And I'm like, oh, that's a good one.
Turn of phrase, death, life, got him.
Yep.
I also enjoyed that helmet guy has the evil tattoo. You see for a second, it's the 666, but you look at it, it's a 999.
Well, sure.
It's a,
it's half
it's a
the time.
666 if you read it from your side while their fist is up. But it's a
Very few
999
situations where that's
if it's
practical.
down.
Yeah.
If your arms are like in a normal place.
But he turns to the dad and he's like, you walk that way. And the dad starts walking that way. He shoots him with the Han shot first laser, which is fucking amazing, right? It's like Ron Ormond never disappoints, even when he's dead, right?
And dad so they show him falling in slow motion, but dad very much just fell down for real.
Yep.
Right. There was no fight choreographer on the set. So we watch him hit his cheek super hard on this trash
In
can and
slow
be like,
motion.
ow, fuck, Linda. What's this bullshit at your church? Christ, this is why I'm secretly gay.
So they shoot the dad and they shoot the mom, and the kid's like, all sad. And he's hovering over top of the mom. And the guy's like, we'll let you go if you renounce Jesus. And he goes, no. And then the helmet shoots him as well.
He says they're both dead. And he goes, they're not dead. They're with Jesus. And I wanted the helmet guy to be like, okay, they're still dead. That's you agree they're dead. I don't agree they're not dead. Dead and with Jesus. I didn't say they weren't with Jesus.
And that kid grew up to be Batman.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
I just want to throw that on.
He grew up to be Bible man. Yeah, exactly.
Bible man.
So then we get and this is going to happen several times in the movie, but this is the first time it happens. So there's diegetic preaching in this film, right? So the scene ends and just a preacher, the Vincent Price guy, the Salvador Dali guy, just walks out of the shadows and goes, what you just saw will happen during the tribulation. We're all just like, wait, where the fuck did you come from, man?
Wait, are you walking through the doodly-doo post-rapture?
Yes, right.
You have to swoosh in and out of that shit. What are you doing?
Have you noticed guys like that always seem to blink at exact intervals? It's like they're being held hostage somewhere and they're forced to make a video. So they're blinking I fell asleep at the retirement home and I woke up in this suit and the guy in the black mask says, I got to make a video. Jesus is Lord, right? Tell my family I love them and the money is in the walls. You know what I'm saying? I did just get that vibe.
But then the preacher once again admits, he's like, well, look, everybody has said that they were living in the last days. That's true. But our generation is the rightest. And we show a clip of, a hurricane and a flood and a landslide as though to say, see the apocalypse, I guess.
But then they show a modern building. So it's the Bible totally nailed this prophecy. Earthquakes, hurricanes, this high-rise apartment building getting blown up.
Exploding. Yeah.
What I loved is they show the exploding building, and then as he's continuing the narration, he's in front of an exploded building. So I wrote in my notes, did he blow up that building to illustrate his point about the end time?
I totally got
know where the budget went.
The opening of Flash Gordon vibes on the disasters. Did you notice that?
Oh, it was interesting. Yeah.
We'll destroy this earth. I totally got a Flash Gordon kind of a thing watching that.
Well, but and the greatest thing about the fucking blown up building, Heath, I had the same fucking thing in my notes, is that he says at that point, he goes these were all the predictions of the ancient Hebrew sages. I'm like, floods and earthquakes, shit that always has happened. And then they show a blown up building. I'm like, well, that wasn't, the Hebrew sages didn't say that.
I mean, damn impressed if they said that.
Yeah, right. I'd be a Christian if they said that. But then, and this is an interesting one, he admits this a couple of times, the Salvador Dali guy goes we Christians don't really agree on what this shit means. Which is weird. You would have thought Jesus would be super specific. You wouldn't think that the most important thing that you could possibly know would be this open to interpretation. But yeah, what we do know though is that the rapture will happen when you least expect it. And I'm like, well, then isn't this movie delaying it by making people expect it more?
Hey, can you just give us an ETA as best you could? You're God. That'd be
Narrow
great.
it down to a generation. All right. Well, with the promise that a plot will break out eventually, sort of, we're going to pause for another break, but we'll be back in a flash with even more of The Second Coming.
Are you on the way yet, at least?
Hi, I'm Tony D. From Tony D's House of Christian Movie Signs, The Rapture just happened. And this weekend, we're having a sale so crazy, our products will be gone like a thief in the night. We got whistling tea kettles, TVs that have been left on, mysteriously still running lawnmowers, and so many abandoned piles of clothes I don't know what to do with them. Baby clothes, adult clothes, clothes weirdly laid out in the shape of a person that could only have been lying flat on the floor, all at rock bottom prices. Tony D's House of Christian Movie Signs, The Rapture just happened. When two are in the field, they're both getting amazing deals.
And we're back for more of the shit. We're going to rejoin the action in a diner where we're going to meet the main character of the movie. More than a third of the way through it. This is Roger.
All right, fellas, we've shot 34 minutes of us wandering through our churches, repeating our philosophy. I think we can start including some of those reels Ron left us in his will.
You want to wrap it? Oh, you want to? Okay, yeah, we can do.
No, that's where the movie starts.
Oh, that's why you're in charge.
So Roger's at a diner. He's having a food when Tim Green, the preacher that introduced us to the whole movie, shows up and he's like, "Hey, Roger, I sure hope you come to church tomorrow." Right? And Roger's like, "I'm not really into that church scene." And of course, we've watched Ron Ormond movies before, and we're like, oh, this character had a chance to get saved and didn't take it. He's going to get fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
So-
Yeah, that's the nice thing about a Ron Ormond movie is that other Rapture movies, you know, they let their protagonists sort of hang around a little bit. But if you said no to Jesus in front of Ron Ormond, you are about to be covered in red ketchup very soon.
Oh, yeah.
Very
Your
soon.
head is coming off.
Before the red ketchup, probably glycerin tears. Did you see that on the kid before they executed him?
Oh, yeah.
Like the first act, I was like, those are so obvious, like right before you can see that they took whatever those things are. I'm surprised glycerin tears did not get a mention in the credits along with, Mammoth Onyx Cave or whatever.
Yeah. And Ruby Tuesdays. Yeah. But yeah, so Tim Green promises Roger, the main character, that there's going to be this great sermon about the end times and the second coming at the church, but he's still not impressed. His girlfriend shows up. And there's a great moment where Roger's like, she's like, "Oh, who's your friend?" He goes, "He's not my friend. He's a preacher who was just getting the fuck away from my table. Wasn't he, preacher man?" So the pastor goes to leave, but of course he has to try to talk the girlfriend into coming to church first. He has to Jesus flirt with her a little bit. He's like, "Hey."
Like the whole conversation is just a series of boundary violations, isn't it? Just to walk in and say, "Hey, good to see you. I'm going to have a seat. You're living wrong. You don't want to burn, do you? Who's this stranger? You're going to burn.
Yes.
You guys need to go to church." It's a total series.
Here's a pamphlet about how you're going to burn.
Here's your homework.
So, yes,
Change your
right.
religion now. Okay, bye.
I'm struck by how these preachers, especially of that era, are so obsessed with like pocketbooks and handouts, which I think is just the most weak ass form of evangelism because it requires really no commitment, no time, no energy, no legwork. I mean, you might as well just have slipped a flyer under the windshield wiper of their car for what it was worth, right? And this was 1980, which of course was the heyday of the Chick Tract. And if you don't know what Chick Tracts are, those creepy little gospel cartoon booklets created by a guy named Jack Chick back in the 60s. And so essentially Jack Chick, he was this wackadoodle, bigoted, apocalyptic nightmare of a human being. And apparently he went to his illustrators and said, "Okay, look, I want you to create pages and pages of penciled hate designed to make non-Christians either laugh out loud or shit their pants," because the whole thing was just apocalypse driven. They had titles like The Beast, Almost Time, Where Did They Go? And I think there are like 250 Chick tracts doing this pocket evangelism. And I think really they're designed to make Christians feel like they're doing something meaningful when they slip one of these books, like this pastor. They just slip it, hand it over, drop it in somebody's Halloween bucket, etc. Right?
Right. Well, yeah, it's a way of always getting the last word, right? Like, "Oh, we'll take this." And of course, as Mitch Hedberg said, anytime somebody hands you a pamphlet, it's like they're saying, "Here, you throw this away," right? But you still get the last word.
I thought he was going to leave one of those ones that looks like a $20 bill as a tip at this diner.
Yeah. Fucking worse.
Then the waitress just beats the fuck out of him.
Yeah, right. And Ray Comfort for making it. Yeah. So, but his girlfriend hooks up with him. The preacher leaves, and she says, "Hey, let's go out to all the night spots."
Let's do risk behaviors together.
Less of a Christian who hasn't been exposed to nightlife and more of an alien faking its way in a human corpse situation we're watching on the screen right now.
Yeah. His girlfriend is Eve, by the way. I thought that was subtle.
Oh, I missed that.
And she's like, yeah, I guess we can go, do risk. I just got here, though. This is weird. We just sat down. Okay, we're leaving. We're leaving.
At a restaurant. Apparently they were meeting at a restaurant to go on a date elsewhere. Okay.
So he had dinner by himself and had Eve meet him there. And then the plan to leave right away after he's done.
Mm-hmm.
She's like the talking snake in the parking lot said you'd be here.
Yeah. So they leave, and then all the lights go out and everybody freezes, and that fucking preacher is sitting there again all diegetically, and you're like, stop! Would you stop just showing up like that?
Okay, I laughed at this one. When Salvador Dali, they pan over, he's like sitting by himself in a booth in this diner, and he's like, that was a bad... Please darken the room. Please, everybody actually freeze, don't move. The rapture shit. Okay, it was about the rapture.
Stop eating that French fry. Yeah, right. No, but yeah, he's like, the Antichrist is going to show up after the rapture, and then you'll sure be sorry. But he starts giving us a sermon, and that fades to a different pastor giving the same sermon.
Yeah, they do like a Mr. Show segue thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Zoom out. It's like a shoebox diorama. Zoom out again. It's God drawing himself like MC Escher. I thought they could have had fun with it. They did not.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, but we kind of fall into a different movie for a few minutes here, right? About this Antichrist guy.
Yeah, the Antichrist versus this one preacher's heart condition becomes the plot of the rest of this movie, including, and I'm really hoping you guys can clarify this, the bus accident?
Okay, so we're going to get to the bus accident, but first we have to meet the facial paralysis communist accent guy.
Oh, every off-Broadway director? That guy?
Yeah. I wrote
in the turtleneck and the blazer.
Yes,
it looks like the Heaven's Gate guy. It looked just like the Heaven's Gate cult guy.
Oh, wow.
I wrote in my notes as Dracula mid-stroke for his accent.
Yes, right.
I want to call an ambulance.
I like that he fell into his real Brooklyn accent
He
for a
did,
second because he
yes.
forgot to keep doing the Dracula, and then he remembers again. He's like, "All right, evil accent," and he has to transition back into it from Brooklyn accent back to evil Dracula. It was fun.
Anyways, I am the Antichrist.
But so what's happening here is that the preacher has just given this speech about the Antichrist. He's given this sermon about the Antichrist. And so now the Antichrist, who is at the church at the moment, steps in and he's like, hey, I thought, you said some really rude things about the Antichrist, and I think we could, or whatever. And so they're having this like theological conversation where the pastor's like, look, I know an Antichrist when I see what I can tell by the accent. It's a Ron Ormond movie. You sound vague. You sound like a Brooklyn guy who's never been to Europe doing European as though that was one accent. Right?
I was just doing this.
Yeah.
You're taking me back to the moment, man. That's so good. You've literally transported me back to the film. That's method. That's so method. Really good stuff.
So, but then the preacher's like, I'm going to tell on you. And he's like, no, I'm going to give you a magical heart attack. But apparently the priest has some anti-satanic heart attack pills.
Fucking baby aspirin.
On his desk.
These are some really good pills. They work in 3 seconds to prevent
3 seconds.
the demon
Not
heart
even all the
attack.
way down your throat yet. I don't know how this works. Worst. Curse you, Bayers!
I'm just struck by how believers are so easily affected by satanic power. I mean, if you read the Bible, right? No weapon formed against me shall prosper. The victory's already won, blah, blah, blah. And then all it takes is some angular-faced dude, squinting guy walking into the office, and he gives you that look, like the look that, an Olive Garden waiter brought you the calamari instead of the breadsticks, and you got pissed off. And so you channel that kind of rage. And that's all it takes. And you go into heart palpitations, heavy breathing, and sweats. I do not understand.
I wrote in my notes, I'm like, why don't you compel him in the name of Christ, dude?
If I was a pastor and a firm believer and the Antichrist killed me even before Act 2 started, I would have words for Jesus when I get up there. I'd be like, just thought maybe my powers might be a little bit stronger than the demon and the powers and you didn't say superior powers and principalities. You just said powers and principalities.
Right. So he kicks the Antichrist out.
Didn't realize I was on the losing team.
Maybe tell your dad to design the heart a little bit better, more intelligently. I don't know. Fuck.
So he kicks out the Antichrist, and the Antichrist is so mad that he uses his telekinesis to shatter the glass in a framed picture.
That was a weird low-level use of Antichrist.
Very petty Antichrist stuff.
Oh, you're going to kick me out? Well, fucking break your little frame that you have. There you go. Fuck you.
If you're barefoot later, you might hurt yourself. So, but then we cut to this weird-ass bus accident that Eli was talking about. This has nothing to do with the goddamn movie whatsoever. Clearly, all of this footage was meant to be tied into a larger film. Nobody could figure out what he had in mind with this, but they're like, fuck it, we've got the footage.
And we have a bus because these are church people. So what are the resources? What are the assets?
Oh, sure.
They've got congregants, they got a building, and somewhere in the parking lot, they've got a bus. And they're like, oh shit, that's a prop that we don't have to pay for. We've got to shoehorn this into the film somewhere.
Well, and what's amazing is they need a bus accident, but of course they can't wreck this bus. So they just have it somehow diagonal a little bit.
Yeah, it was like one of those damaged ships in the original Star Trek where, they would shoot the Romulans and hanging in space, apparently by one engine from a fishing line would be the ship. That's what they did to the bus in this movie.
Right.
I want to know why a bus driver with children in the bus is doing fucking 70 miles an hour on a dirt road with S curves, right? He's like, all right, kids, you have flexible bones. If you hit the ceiling, I think you're going to be fine.
He starts it because so we see the accident and he's talking to the cops and he's reliving it and we're flashing back to it. And this guy is it's like me playing fucking Mario Kart in here, right? He's like, I'm sorry, so I'm hauling ass down the road seeing if I can get to 80 on this motherfucker over here. And then some asshole comes in, he's drifts into my lane. I'm you're gonna kill all these kids.
And the car that comes around the corner that runs them off the road. Anybody see that old 1977 horror movie called The Car?
No.
If you haven't seen it, you got to go to YouTube because the whole film may actually be on YouTube, but it was sort of in the 70s in that specific kind of a vibe where supernatural inanimate objects become evil kind of a thing. And The Car was this old school Lincoln Continental, black in color, blacked out windows that apparently was a demon car with no driver. And it would just drive around and fuck people up. And that's all it did. It could run it over hitchhikers. It could drive through your house. The only place it couldn't go was into a cemetery. Oh, it's gold. And so the car that comes around that runs and so this is within 3 years of each other. And I think, okay, Universal Studios had this old car and they're like, well, let's put a classified ad out and see, is anyone out there making an apocalypse movie and you need evil on four wheels? Call this.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Right.
And then Stephen King did so much cocaine and did Maximum Overdrive as a third steal of this.
Yeah, right. But yeah, but the cops are all like, well, that all sounds a little unbelievable. And he's like, no, this kid was sitting up front with me. And I'm like, what? And he's like, tell them about it. And he's like, yeah, no, that's exactly what happened. I'm like, well, let's go back to why the fuck a kid was sitting up front with you while you were driving a goddamn bus.
We were smoking cigarettes together.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But the kid tells us, he's like, I tried to get the car's license plate, but it disappeared. Pin in that in case you have an extra pin that you never have to pull out any point in your fucking life in the future. So, okay. So then we cut to a preacher talking about that crash, right? He's the church the next day going so there was a bus crash. I bet that's going to come back later on in the plot somehow, huh?
Well, hang on a second, because I was lost. Who was on the stretcher? Whenever they loaded there was a body after the accident.
I thought a kid got taken away on a stretcher.
Yes.
Made even more confusing by the fact that this preacher is about to preface his church sermon by being like, so anyways, nobody was hurt. And I was like, I thought I just saw someone on a stretcher.
Yes.
Anyways, that's the morning announcements for church that we apparently have right now. Let's get to our religion.
Yeah. Those kids almost died. And now a little Doc Severinsen and the Tonight Show band. And they do the choir as a zoop away before the sermon. This guy, it turns out, like, do churches have like a warm-up comedian, Seth, in your experience? Is that
no, not
doing
really,
topical
no.
shit?
But there were tons of that particular flavor of church choir with the robes. I mean, these days in hip church culture, like the less formal you look, the more apparently you're in touch with the Jesus who accepts everyone, come as you are, Jesus kind of deal. But back then, it was all like those sort of satin robes and muted colors with the white collars. And you look like, you literally look like you were carved out of ceramic. And then they sit everybody in rows. And sometimes they segregate the men and the women because, people with urges and robes might just sort of reach
never
over
know,
to each other.
And also, how excited were you when the choir started singing and it cut away? Right?
Oh, Ron Ormond knew our hearts.
That was nice.
Imagine being Ron Ormond, newly converted Christian filmmaker. You film an entire choir performance, and days before your own death, you're like, that's boring as shit. Cut it. No strawberry syrup. It goes.
So we cut to, because we have the choir start singing, and then we cut to like Dimitri, that is the Antichrist, so you can tell because he has a European name, right? Dimitri the Antichrist, he's like magically attacking the preacher in a flashback or something. I can't really tell, right? But then we watch that sort of weird flashback and we cut to the end of the choir song and the guy going like, well, that was the end of the choir song. It was lovely. Wouldn't want to cut that out of a movie or anything. But then he introduces the preacher, who is the preacher earlier who had, who saved himself from the demonic heart attack. I say the preacher from earlier. There's been like 11 of them so far, right?
Yeah. So that guy was like the opener.
Wait, I saw the movie and I'm lost. Which preacher? Which preacher are we talking about?
It's hard to keep track for sure.
Yeah, so this is Heart Attack Preacher.
Okay, the one at the desk who grabbed the pills. Preacher.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
He's the
thank you.
headliner pastor with like the real sermon, I guess.
Right. Yeah. He's no bullshit warm-up sermon there.
I just felt like this was a missed opportunity. I mean, the Antichrist or whoever is going, he's going after the pastor at the pulpit. And I'm like, this could have been a full-on Scanners ripoff, right?
Oh, shit.
Explode
Could
his
have been
head.
a scan. And instead, what do we get? We get this like spine-chilling display of apocalyptic limpness. The guy just like thunk, and then lays on the ground. And then some dude comes up who obviously has no medical training. What are chest compressions for CPR? You're supposed to do like 5 centimeters deep, 100 a minute, right? This guy looks like he brushed away some lint on the guy's chest and said, "I'm sorry. Sorry." It looks like,
Nope,
he was a
he's
good
dead.
man.
He's down. He's down. Hey, you know what? We're already at church. Might as well do the funeral right now. Yeah, right.
Maybe I do the elbow. Hey, nope, still heart attack. All right.
Well, and look, if any Christian filmmaker was ever going to go full Scanners, it was Ron Ormond. You have to feel like maybe they talked him out of a more bloody and spectacular death. They're like, the dude could just have a heart attack, man.
Is this the guy who put the sticks through the children's throat in If Horses Wouldn't
Yes.
Tire? Is that right?
Yeah, if
Like
Footman
the
tire
gore
you over
porn.
horses.
He was always doing like kind of gore porn and calling it, well, I don't really enjoy this, but it's something that will happen. So therefore I must do it. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the guy. Yeah. So, but he has a heart attack. But he preaches all the way through it, right? About how full of shit atheists are. And then, the guy says like, yeah, he's gone. And his wife, they turn to his wife and she's got this like, well, damn it. Now who's going to drive on the way home? Kind of an attitude.
Okay, so just to be clear, the Antichrist character gave the pastor a minor heart attack earlier to like build the moment, and now gave him another
It's
one.
a warning shot.
Or
of a
maybe he
heart
was just
attack.
practicing, right? Or he hasn't used his heart attack powers very much.
He got nervous.
And he's like, oh,
halfway
God,
through.
that was shit. That was shit. I'll come back later. I'm going to warm up. But he dies, and then everybody freezes long enough for fucking Vincent Price to explain that, God actually meant for all of that to happen.
Hey, everybody. I read what Eli wrote in his scam notes during that last scene, and no, God gave Satan powers for dramatic tension purposes. Loves a 3-actor, the Lord of the universe.
Yeah, right. But the preacher guy is like, well, but this reminds me of that time that Jesus came back from the dead. So we doodly-do to Roman guards in front of the tomb playing Farkle.
Now, Noah, they're playing dice, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Are they like normal dice that you?
No, they would not be normal dice. They'd actually be far larger than any die that you would ever
They're
fucking
extremely silly and large.
These dice belong at an orgy for the nearsighted or hanging off of someone's rear view mirror.
Or both.
This is what your grandma uses with grandpa for his birthday.
So authentic as they're standing out there in front of hardware store Duraflame logs, sitting right in front of them.
Right.
I like that they made one of those dice wrong. It has 2 4s on it. You can see.
Oh, did it really?
One of them has 4 and 4 next to each other.
So but they're all they're playing some dice and hanging out. A thunderstorm kicks up around them. An angel in white robes appears and rolls back the rocks.
Oh, here's a great idea, Roman soldiers. Wear a metal hat in a lightning storm. I think that's awesome. That's awesome.
Why would they have their helmets on at this point, right? What are they worried about happening? But yeah, and then the guards pass out from Jesus's holiness, apparently.
Yeah, but they saw the other guy fuck up his face on the trash can earlier in the movie. So they do like a Southern Belle pass out onto each other's calves and like cozy style.
Right. Yeah, I'll catch you if you catch me pass out. Yeah.
Man, it's hard to keep up with these guys. They are just so freaking fast. But having a lot of fun. More of our review of The Second Coming next. Thank you so much for listening to the broadcast and for your support on Patreon, patreon.com/Seth Andrews. It really does make a difference. Okay, continuing my guest shot on god-awful movies, reviewing the 1980 film, The Second Coming.
So now it's the next morning. The women show up at the tomb. They don't seem, surprised that the rocks rolled back at all. And, of course, where Jesus should be a glowy angel is there to explain what's going on in the story.
Does it tell us why they just waltzed in? I mean, they just walked in like it was another day at the office. I'm sorry. This is a grave. And you guys are walking in like you're, I don't know what they were doing. And then they find that pristine cloth, the empty cloth in the burial shroud, I guess. But there was not a mark on it, right? It's pristine. I thought, the Shroud of Turin people are going to be pissed.
I wanted one of the women to turn to the others and be like, ladies, we should wait 500 years and then sprinkle some blood on this. What do you think?
This is a good idea. Let's use the fibers from a different era, though. How about that?
Yeah, let's make sure we use all the and sign it.
We could ship a Theseus at a...
Sign it, Greg from Roman times later.
Let's add some carbon to it, too.
And then to bring the good news to the masses, Mel Gibson can go on Joe Rogan and spread the good news. What a plan. Yeah. What a plan.
Yeah, but the angel's like, he is risen, and he disappears with a quick ta-da, and then this very southern lady goes, y'all, he is risen.
Yup, that's a sheet. He is a resurrected guy. That's official.
He's risen, and every casserole I make has marshmallows on top, savory or sweet. I promise you that.
So and then Vincent fucking Price shows up, and he goes, he is risen. Everybody freeze again. I'm talking now. And then he doodly-doos us into Babylon because apparently that's the other footage they had.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was the Ren Fair? Babylon?
Yeah. Okay. Where we meet Zoltar. He's there in case anybody wishes they were big.
Yeah.
At any point.
Mm-hmm. I like that there were magicians doing magic tricks, crystal balls, and the wise men all sharing one big book.
Yeah.
That was cool. So this is Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon. Mm-hmm. And they tell us that he has, a magician, but also a sorcerer.
Yes.
And I was like, cool. He thinks he's got a real magic guy and then he's got like a tricks guy.
Yeah.
I like that he has both.
Probably kept asking the sorcerer to do that one where he figures out his card or whatever. Do the one with the linking rings. He's like, that's not a fucking sorcerer trick, man. He says that he's got magicians and sorcerers and wise men. And I'm like, so what are the fucking magicians dumb? What are you talking about, man? So it's like when Eli describes me as the smart one, it's good. So then, so we cut to Nebuchadnezzar. He's having his nightmare. and we see the big, lovely tiger print over his bed.
Oh, no. I want to talk about this guy's bedroom because this sounds like a guy I'd want to hang out with. The whole time I'm like, okay, I see hanging ropes. I got a purple dot wall that's shaped like an X-Files alien. He's sleeping under the tiger tapestry. He's got 15 lit candles while he sleeps on top of the covers. He has a blue and a green silk pillow, and while he sleeps, he is wearing a little tiara. That guy was awesome.
Fuck yeah, he
That
is.
guy fucks.
You know that bed is spinning. They don't show us, but like that bed can fucking spin.
And vibrating. And
there's a mirror on the ceiling. Yeah, no, there's some work being done.
So here's how amazing this fucking room is. Seth, there was also a giant lion print in that room, and you didn't even mention it, right?
Didn't
There's
get around
so
to
much
it, yeah.
shit going on. You were just like, I can't even be bothered to mention the giant lion photo that kind of fucking clashes with the tiger theme.
Yeah, the movie even like insists on showing you again. It's like, here's the lion, and then you see the tiger poster behind the bed, and they're like, by the way, if you didn't see it earlier because you got confused,
yes, right. Here's the
lion. We have both, and this guy fucks.
And we get one of these moments, and this happens all the time in biblical movies, where they're showing us something that was never meant to be visualized that far. Right? Because this is the story where Nebuchadnezzar has the dream about the statue that's layered and it's got gold and it's got the feet of clay, right? Or whatever. So what we have to see now is a statue that's layered like this, that's gold and then whatever, bronze and then iron and then clay. And it's like, well, it looks really fucking dumb.
So, because again, it's not just because the dream, if they could accurately represent it, would already look silly. But these motherfuckers had paper mache money.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it looks like your nephew's troubling first attempt at a chocolate Easter bunny. Like you're like, yeah, this is great, buddy. I'm going to put this away and check you in patient. But thank you so much.
Yeah.
No, I won't be eating it.
It looked like they were building the statue of paper mache at kindergarten, and they couldn't get all the crayon colors they wanted exactly because somebody else got like other ones.
Right.
They did the best they could.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then we see like a rock hurls towards it in slow motion, and it hits the feet, and then the statue falls, and then the statue explodes, and then the statue explodes again. So they have the budget for absolutely nothing, but when it came time to blow some shit up, Ron Ormond was like, blow it up twice, though. Blow it up, make it blow up while it's blowing up.
It's like how occasionally when you're listening to Christian music, you'll hear like a tiny bit of artistry from the person they could have been. That's how I feel whenever Ron gets to blow someone up or kill someone.
Right.
It's like, there was a filmmaker in there once, my boy.
Yep.
She would have gone to church without you, Ron.
So then we cut to fucking Daniel Bob having dinner, right? And this is my favorite fucking actor because this guy's going to play Daniel, but he's got this just absolute Tennessee accent about it.
Mm-hmm. He has a Tennessee accent and he has the haircut of Stewart from Mad TV.
Yes. So the king's guard shows up. So sorry, the king, wakes up from his nightmare and he's like, hey, go get all of the wise men and the Chaldeans and the fucking magician and all of them. Bring them to me. I have this dream thing going on, right? So the king's guard shows up for where Daniel and the other wise men are, and he's like pounding on the door. He's like, hey, what do you want? He's like, I'm going to kill you slowly. And he's like, what? He goes, the king had a bad dream that he needs interpreted.
It's such a weird threat because he's like, I cannot wait to peel the skin from your flesh. And he's like, what? And he's like, sorry, I should back up. The king has a task that I think you won't be able to do. And then when you fail at I'm sorry, I opened this weird. I'm like, I'm kind of freaking out right now because I feel like I started things weird.
Do you want to go back out and start again?
Okay, can I start again?
Yeah. Well, you came in a little hot. Try to just smooth it out.
Hey, Daniel, how's it going?
No, too hard. Too hard. Shake it out.
I like how the king walks in and attempts to be threatening with, if you want to know what was on his head, Google 1990s Jiffy Pop. Because it was just this big bubble of foil on his head. And then he's using the same kind of dull knife that Abraham was using. Did you notice it's different color? But it's like he walked in and threatened him with a garden tool. He's like, you will come and interpret the king's dream, or I will make uneven rows in your pomegranate field.
But he's like, yeah, no, I can interpret the dream. And so we watch Daniel thinking about the dream. Now, the way this is visualized, yes. So he's like standing there staring out a window, and the upper right quadrant of the screen is showing us the dream again.
You mean he thinks? He thinks in the movie?
Yeah.
In the movie they think?
When people pray, do you think some of them are like, toodly-doo, toodly-doo?
Ooh,
Trying to
great
make it
question.
actually happen.
Interesting.
Great question.
Interesting. Yeah. Or somebody watching that movie going like, well, that's fucked up. When I pray, I don't see stuff up in the upper left. But Daniel totally credited God with all the heavy lifting, right? He's like, yeah, well, I interpreted the thing, but God figured it out.
So sorry, Noah, it was, I may have interpreted the dream, but God has saw the mystery.
Right. Yes, right. So we cut to the king watching the least sexy belly dance of all time. So, but he's like clearly not into it.
Sorry, I really would love to enjoy your sexy belly dance, but like there's a new episode of Severance on Apple TV, and I'm kind of waiting for you to finish so I can watch it. I don't want to.
I think that scene, I may be wrong with the family in the alley, but I think that scene was the first time that a female character said a word in the entire movie.
Yeah.
And it was whispered and it was like unintelligible. Like, okay, well,
Oh, you're right.
we'll give you a line, but this is the Old Testament. And so, you're not allowed to have authority over men anyway. So we're just going to make you mute and dress you in, glittery things. And then you go sit in the corner.
We didn't have the women's liberation of the book of Timothy yet at this point in history.
You have to pass the reverse Bechdel test.
Well, no,
you can only communicate about men to other men.
Right. No, I'm thinking about it. I think you're absolutely right. There's this one woman who goes, Daniel's here. And that probably is the first time. Eve is spoken in the movie.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Eve.
Yeah, I didn't want to spoil it, but there is Eve in the night events that she is seeing.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah.
But damn near enough that we had to scratch our heads about it. Yeah. So, but Daniel shows up and so the king claps, everybody stops dancing and the music stops and everything.
I feel like that's a confusing signal. What if he really was enjoying the dancing?
Right? Yeah, they'd have to start again. Every time he claps once, they stop, claps again, he starts again. Right. So, but Daniel explains the dream. He goes like, the feet of clay. He doesn't actually explain the dream, but he's like, you get it. You've read the Bible, right? And then fucking Vincent Price shows up again to tell us what the rest of that scene would have looked like if Ron hadn't died before they finished filming it, I guess.
You guys get it. Daniel did the thing and Jesus was the rock. And we did a thing where Larry crawled out of a big paper mache rock dressed like Jesus, but we just didn't have the heart for it.
Yeah.
Anyways, if you're wondering what the signs of the apocalypse will be, it's disagreeing with me.
Yes, right. Yeah. Yeah. So just out of nowhere, he's like, well, so the part that Daniel missed is that the rock was Jesus. And I'm like, wow, the all-knowing God revealed the meaning to him in a fucking state of trance or whatever. How did he miss a part?
Just God walking away from Daniel, patting his pockets. Oh, shit. Did I forget to tell him that the rock was Jesus?
Oh, that's awesome. So you got Nebuchadnezzar who requires someone to explain the dream. And then you have the preacher who has to explain the explanation of Daniel who explained the dream.
Yes, right,
which is
right.
Really it's kind of a great metaphor for how the Bible has been transferred down
interesting.
From the generations, right?
Yeah. And then they realize that their prophecy still hasn't happened yet that they just named. So he's like, wait, no, there's also the fucking falling away thing. We're not wrong yet. We're not wrong
yes,
yet.
we're not quite wrong. Yeah.
The decay of society has to happen. And they show us that for a second. The decay is going to be disco and like ladies with credit cards buying drinks.
Yep.
But doesn't that really tell you something about this all-knowing God, that he's got this incredibly important message, right, about Jesus shaking things up and everything and be ready for that and the second coming and all that. So the way he does it, he's like, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the king a dream and then I'm going to have the ninth person that tries to interpret it correctly. I'm going to have that put into a book and then we'll have Vincent Price interpret that later for a movie in 1980. Yeah, right. That was God's fucking plan. Apparently.
J.J. Abrams is reading it like, it seems a little unclear.
And then what if a ball rolls down a ramp and that lights a match and then that rope that falls and then the mouse at the bottom gets the cage?
We had a shade of this recently. I was co-hosting a show on The Line and we had somebody call up to do a riff on numerology, which is one of those things where they go through the Bible and they're like, okay, in every sixth chapter, of the 7th verse of the 30th word of the 50th letter on a day with an R in it. If you stand on one leg, if you add it all up, then it comes to 666 or a 7 number of some kind. And that means something relevant. And I'm like, what kind of a sadist would essentially say, okay, eternity's in the balance. So to keep from burning, here's what I want you to do, right?
You guys know Sudoku?
It actually spells out MAGA, so that's how I vote
Amazing. All right, well, I'll tell you what. Now that we've been reminded Jesus is coming back for the 26th time in the film, it's starting to kind of sink in, so I need a minute to rethink things. But first, let me give Act 3 the hard sell. Do you know where you'd go if you died tonight? Have you heard the good news about Jesus? Do you have a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior? Find out the answers to these questions and more when we return for the so much crazier than you are prepared for conclusion of The Second Coming.
Mitch!
Hey, Craig, what's up?
Did you hear? Thousands of people are disappearing.
Oh, you mean like the rapture?
Yeah, I guess.
Must be the rapture then.
Yeah, it has to be. Good point.
Hey, fellas, did you see that the rapture happened?
Right? What are the chances?
I'll tell you this. I am sure it's the rapture.
Why, sure. Literally all media and aspects of society have been permeated by promises of the rapture. Not understanding this was the rapture would be like not recognizing Mickey Mouse.
If Mickey Mouse spent billions of dollars a year telling people about himself. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, fellas, did you hear about this mystery on the news?
Mystery? Charlie, what are you talking about?
Yeah, apparently there's a missing earring.
No, Charlie, people are disappearing.
Oh, so it's the rapture then.
Yep, the rapture.
Definitely the rapture.
And we're back for still more of this shit. We're going to rejoin the action with Roger awaking to an alarm clock that Tom Curry would consider a little much, right?
Okay. So at this point, I was like, what the fuck is happening with this movie? And that's when I looked up and realized that Ron Ormond had died. Now, I know what you're thinking. I should have realized that when they dedicated the movie to him. But I didn't realize he died midway through making it. So now the whole movie had a real, I'm going to make this last Jolly Rancher last for this car ride vibe.
Yes. Yeah.
And when he died, was it like the death of the preacher on stage? Did someone just come by and sort of brush their palm across his heart and say, oh, fuck it.
Patted him on the chest and was like, yep, dead.
Yep, it's not going to work for you.
Yeah. I wonder if they filmed that afterwards as sort of I bet it was the Antichrist that got him kind of a thing. You know?
Have you noticed that in the Rapture movies and A Thief in the Night, that whole trilogy, or actually it's 4 films, they have Jesus arriving, the rapture happens, and all the believers disappear. If you read the Bible, it is like a big deal. You know, the trumpet will sound, the dead will be raised, incorruptible, we shall be changed. So the fanfare is going to be so grand, so global, so intense, so undeniable that it can be outdone by a desk alarm clock, right? The trumpet of Christ's return doesn't wake him, but the buzzing of his alarm clock rouses him immediately. Makes no sense.
Alexa, snooze the Jesus trumpet.
Well, and also, like, we get the
hangover.
Like the sketch just talked about, we get the whole stupid, like, nobody seems to know about the rapture after it happens thing as well. So he calls his mom to tell him he's too hungover to go to church with her. And we all had that moment of like, wow, did it really take that long to dial a rotary phone? God, I forgot about that. But while he's doing that, the news cuts into the radio and it's like, people everywhere have disappeared. We don't know what happened yet, but we'll tell you later in the movie, you know?
Yeah. And I know that you all just heard a sketch about this, but I will never get over rapture movies where everybody doesn't know it's the fucking rapture.
Yeah.
Sometimes I walk in the room and call my wife's name twice and I'm like, oh, that was the fucking rapture.
I like that the radio had excellent timing for explaining the rapture. Like after he gets up, alarm straight to a radio, and they like break in and they're like, breaking news, rapture. And then they say it again. They're like, right. Well, if you're just joining us after my one sentence a second ago, I'll say it again. Rapture.
If you were calling your mother and not really paying attention to the radio, I should probably mention one more time.
It's like in all those movies when someone's like, turn on your TV when something newsworthy happens.
right.
And 300 channels, they just happen to have it on.
I repeat.
Yes. The plot of the premise. So, yeah, but he can't get his mom on the line, and he's heard that a bunch of people are disappearing. So he goes to check on his mom, right? And we know right away that she's raptured because her tea kettle is squealing away, and that's one of the 6 items at Tony D's house of fucking rapture cliches, right? But Roger, the character, doesn't know it's a rapture movie, so he just resorts to breaking mom's window way too fast.
Instantly. Mom could have been taking a shit,
Right.
Roger. Relax.
Even a piss, because it's just like knock, knock, knock. Ma, breaks the
Smash.
fucking window.
Smash. I don't think he gave her a second ma. I think it was a one ma situation.
I think she was out front looking in a bewildered way at the sky. And here's why I say that, because there is in Christian tradition this notion that when Jesus returns, he will return from the east. And it's rooted in a scripture about, I forget exactly what the scripture says, but Christian tradition is so married to this that if you go to a cemetery where you see Christians are buried, the plots are facing east. The head must face east, because when Jesus arrives, apparently, like he's going to arrive so he can be seen in the east. And I've just never understood this. Okay, so you're a Christian in, I don't know, New York City. Does that mean Jesus is going to drop down, over the North Atlantic? If he descends on Israel, then what? The people at Riyadh, they can't turn around and look west, so they're totally hosed. I just don't know. Jesus comes down and he only does like 180-degree pan.
Right.
He's like, I'll just leave everybody else.
And if they face the heads east, those people can only see west. It's like laying in bed. You wouldn't put your TV behind your head. You'd put it in front of your head.
I don't know. It's something about how if they were to rise up, they would be looking east. This happened at my own grandmother's funeral, digression. They had an outdoor service and they had her positioned out there and her casket was there. And my religious mother was like agitated. She's like, oh my God, it's something. I'm like, well, what's wrong? She's facing the wrong way. And so I'd never heard of this thing before. So I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, she has to be facing the east. And I just don't get. Jesus comes back and he doesn't see grandma facing east and just says, fuck it. And he just leaves. I don't understand this at all.
So I think I get it. Okay, so it's not about, because Jesus is going to take her one way or the other, but imagine that you're the only one in the elevator facing backwards. It's going to be embarrassing.
Yeah, that's a power move that I do. I like to pace the back of the elevator and go, not today. Not today. I'll tell you, people let you out first, no matter what floor you're going to.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he breaks into mom's house. He's looking. She's got the radio on again. It comes on at exactly the right time one more time, right? And it comes in and it goes like, more news on the disappearances. The president is meeting with the Joint Chiefs of Staff and a bunch of preachers.
If you just broke into your mom's house and walked into a room where there's a radio on, good luck to you.
Right.
Here's the news.
Well, and then he picks up, I guess it's not a Bible, right? Because it has to talk clearly about the rapture, and the Bible doesn't do that at any point. So he finds this little tiny book, right? And he starts absently leafing through it, and he goes, oh, this is a book about the rapture. How convenient.
Have you noticed how freaked out everybody is about the rapture? I mean, this is something that Christians are supposed to be looking forward to. Come, Lord Jesus, please take me away. Heaven's going to be an amazing place where I have mansions and streets of gold. I get to be reunited with grandma, my best friend, and the family dog. And I cannot wait for Jesus. And then all of a sudden, a sign of the imminent return of Christ comes along, or the rapture. And they're like, they lose their minds.
Every time, yep.
This should be parties.
So which is it? Are you excited about the end of this physical realm, or are you terrified of this physical realm coming to an end?
Is there any chance that a bunch of you are liars and you're not actually following?
Yeah, right. Because you guys seem really sad at
believe the
funerals, which doesn't make sense either.
Also, have you noticed on the radio when they were saying that the president and the Joint Chiefs of Staff will be meeting to discuss this? And I'm like, I'm sorry. Why in all of these films are the president and the Joint Chiefs of Staff not raptured? Because they're apparently not Christians. Can you name one American president who was not identified, at least publicly, as a Christian in some way?
Yeah.
So is the implication that they were all secret atheists and just being politicians about their religion?
Jimmy Carter, that evil atheist. That was the
Right.
guy at the time.
Also weird that he's going to bring in the Navy on this. He's like, wow, a lot of people disappeared. I wonder what the Navy thinks of this. I don't understand that. But this is of course where we get the money shot of the film, right? Because Roger sits down on the end of the bed and he looks right at the camera and he says these exact words, I shit you not. My mother was right.
Yeah.
She sure was.
It's funny you wrote that that's the money shot because I wrote in my notes that's the closest Christians are going to get to officially porn.
You're right. Yeah, exactly. As we learned with Fireproof with Kirk Cameron.
It was mean to do an atheist podcast making fun of Ron Ormond's movies at any time ever. That's what I'm saying now to the camera.
That's what I've learned. Yeah, right. So, but then the narrator takes us to this fucking cemetery to kick off a little rapture montage. And this is where we get to see what Seth was talking about, the people having to be spring-loaded to the east when they're... We see shit. I shit you know. We see a grave just explode, and we're like, "I'm listening, Ron."
Karen, buried in a Pez dispenser, immediately sprung to meet God in the air.
It's fucking phenomenal. I was looking at this grave and I was like, is there about to be a person on this grave? In my wildest dreams, I did not believe we were going to watch someone explode out of that grave.
Oh,
with a Candy Crush sound effect.
yes, right.
There's
right.
like a Nosferatu kind of thing, just goes boing
Yeah,
to
right.
a vertical position.
Well, and then we've got no, it's like somebody stepped on a rake, but a human being, and then we have this little montage of different people, like where the dad gets raptured at the farm and the son doesn't, and the husband doesn't get raptured, but the wife does. And every time somebody gets raptured, they do it to the sound effect of Link finding a secret room.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know what that is. Now I got to go look it up. Can somebody perform it for me or
Mr.
something?
Flash Gordon reference doesn't get your Zelda joke, Noah.
Yeah.
Not quite as relevant as the Jiffy Pop of the 1990s.
I have
And
failed
cum
you,
gutters.
my son. I have failed you, my son. What's it sound like? What's it sound like?
Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
Yeah.
He had that in the fucking chamber. No, it was ready.
Yeah. So you ask me what a Legend of Zelda sound effect sounds like. Okay, come on. So then we get the evening news. I love this fucking evening news report so goddamn much because this is the rapture has happened, the Antichrist is taking over, and we're about to do the 666 thing, right? And so the evening news guy comes up and he goes, everyone will have to be labeled, every man, woman, and child. Sources say this comes directly from world headquarters. And we're like, world headquarters of what?
The evil UN.
I love the fact that when he shows his own 666 stamp on his hand, it looks like he just got stamped for admission at the trampoline park.
Right, yeah.
He's like, my hour started at 11:20. I've got 15 more minutes. You're not kicking me out of here. That's exactly what I was thinking when I saw his wrist.
Yeah, and the news guy says the edict is it has to be electronically labeled on your right hand or your forehead. First of all, who the fuck's choosing forehead? That's insane.
Right, that'd be weird.
Electronically labeled, like this is 1980. Like you would get like an Atari 2600 smashed into your forehead. Like what technology do they think they're using there?
I love computers in 1980s movies. Have you noticed that all it takes is like 10 seconds for them to do exactly what you want them to do?
Right, yeah.
Just all you have to do is, it's like, was it Star Trek 4? Scotty sitting there at a Mac and he just like immediately starts typing, and within 30 seconds, oh, look, transparent aluminum. Like those computers in the 80s will do, all you have to do is just type in, please make a number of the beast. Boom.
Right.
Immediately.
Right.
It's the
I
apocalypse.
hated that scene so fucking much because why would he be good at typing? Right? It makes no fuck. He's been able to talk to his computer and he's typing like a super fucking typist. It's like, why would being from the future make you fast at typing? That's so dumb.
Also, everyone's going to scan like the same bank account number. It's all 666s.
It's all the same number.
It would need
right.
to be a fucking QR code or something. You can't just
You would
scan all the
think.
same ones.
I feel so stupid that I've never thought of that in my life. Like I got barcodes because there was, during the Satanic Panic, there was a claim that barcodes were actually the numbers of the beast and computers were tied into the end times and all that.
Well, I mean, like
Yeah,
one of the 10 digits was a 6.
If everybody's 666, I mean, we're definitely all drawing from the same well, aren't we?
You
Financially.
would think, yeah.
Wild. Yeah.
What if I were to tell you about a little Ponzi scheme known as the Federal Reserve?
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Hear me out.
And why is this reporter immediately in agreement with the whole thing too? He's just like excited about it.
Well, because he works for the deep state,
Oh, okay.
right?
He's scared.
Yeah.
scared.
The Illuminati got to him.
We shouldn't have called the Antichrist a rapist. That's our fault. He did get convicted of a thing that is that word. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Sorry.
So then we cut to Roger, and he's in line to get his tattoo. So we see like their idea. We see 1980s idea of a futuristic tattoo machine. So it might as well be a Gravitron, right?
I was wondering if somebody was going to play Load Runner on one of the monitors. That's how old it all looked.
It's a sweet game.
They mentioned it earlier. We don't get to see anyone take it, but they mentioned that the choice is hand or forehead. And I really want a one-on-one interview with the guy who chooses forehead. It's just like, sometimes I got my hands in my pocket. Win a time.
Okay.
It's a lot easier.
Take it out every time.
So but when you want to boop it at the store, you're going to headbutt the little thingy or?
Little bow.
You're going to headbutt?
Bow.
You're going to do a bow? Okay.
You're going to have a hell of a time getting that under the passport scanner at the airport, right?
Yeah.
That is tough. That is tough.
really going to be hard.
And I hate self-checkout at the grocery store. Let me tell you, I got to squeeze myself under that little thing. Gets me right in the cum gutters.
So, but but Roger decides at the last minute that he can't do it, right? Because he's been reading about this rapture, so he jumps out of line. And then we have this scene where he's at like a greasy spoon. He's trying to order a hamburger, and they're like, "But you ain't got the mock. No mock, no boiga for you."
I'm so sorry, Noah. I know this film is only 50 minutes and we are so close to the end. You can taste it. I can taste it. But I do need to talk about how this order is taken. The man at the counter says, "What for you?"
Yes.
And you see the actor who plays Roger go like, "We're obviously taking... No, we're not taking that again. All right.
What for you it is then.
A hamburger is what I would be for?"
He goes, a hamburger medium. And I'm like, I think in that place you get the hamburger how he cooks the hamburger, bro.
Yeah, I don't think this guy has a meat thermometer back there.
So,
and if he does, he doesn't use it for the meat.
So he leaves. He's like, "No hamburger for you." He goes, "Okay, well, yeah, I don't want to start a problem." So he goes outside, but a couple of atheist heavies are out there ready to beat him up for not having his mark of the beast.
Atheist hooligans, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this scene. Our protagonist, TJ Hookered the hell out of this thing. I swear to you. It's just, it was absolute 80s action gold.
Fuck, yeah, it was.
It's like you've got that in the background, and obviously the trumpets going on, and he's, one of the baddies, I think, was wearing the obligatory leather jacket,
yes.
if I recall. Yeah.
And of course had the obligatory switchblade to pull out halfway through the fight. I feel like you start with the switchblade, you're gonna be fine, but no. Halfway through the fight, he's like, also switchblade.
That switchblade's not going to do anything against that William Shatner move that the guy did at the end with the double fist. He just kind of spun around and sent him off into the wall. No switchblade can master that.
No. They wouldn't figure that out for another 10 years at least.
One last break here, and our final segment with Noah Lugeons, Eli Bosnick, Heath Enright, the God-Awful Movies crew. Next. The film, released 45 years ago, produced by Ron Ormond, an evangelist and really shitty movie maker. We continue our review of The Second Coming.
So, but Roger wins the fight and he runs off and he hides under a bridge where he turns to God and he's like, "Lord, you got to help me." And Lord's like, should have thought about that before the rapture, Roger.
What's that about, though? I don't mean to jump in again, but I'm sorry. He runs what? A distance of maybe 100 yards, and he's running at the speed of litigation. Okay, and then he just stops and decides, this would be a great time to do some reading.
Yes,
and he just sits down and starts reading. I don't understand this.
Yeah, and the atheist greasers are like, "He's gone. Where'd he go? He's magically under a bridge, disappeared." And he pulls out the book again. So he's like just now finally reading the the answer key about the rapture in this book he had.
Right.
And he reads some more, and he's reading like the details of the prophecies, and every detail, it appears, is somehow playing out exactly like it says in the book, right next to him there under the bridge.
Right.
He's like looking around and it's happening.
It's amazing too, because just in case you don't follow along with what he's doing, he says out loud as he opens the book, "My mom used to tell me to read Revelation." So that's the exact fucking line in the movie. And then he's like, all the trees and grass will burn up. Check. And I'm like, did that happen off screen somewhere? And they're like, no, see, here's a fire.
And he's the whole time he's sitting there. Of course, the drama is, I wonder if he'll be discovered. Now we're talking about a Caucasian sitting under a bright street light wearing a white T-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
This guy could have been seen from space, right? From space.
But no, he's got plenty of time to read Revelation, and sure is sorry about rejecting Jesus for all those years, right?
We get a locust tease here, right? Because they're going through all the things, and it's like there'll be the pit, and I was like, I know what comes out of the pit, and they're like, the locusts come out of the pit, and I was like, oh my god, the locust! But they locusts.
No, they don't give a shit.
Ron was dead.
I was furious.
Me too. Thank you.
Instead,
Holding you in the light.
the clown car Zamboni of Jesus cops rolls up again, right? And Helmet shows up, and he turns to the main character and he goes, "At last we meet, Mr. Morgan." And we're like, what? You're just excited to finally meet the main character?
Hold on, let me fix my thing. My thing's broken. Hold on. Let me put up the thing. Fuck. At last we meet, Mr. Morgan. Fuck.
Was the implication that the hero was on a list? How would they know who he was?
I don't know.
I wasn't making a connection at all. It was like, this seems awfully a very familiar conversation, considering that you just turned a corner
Right.
down the road, right?
Right. Like there's a very like Ron Ormond had some other ideas in mind of these two characters knowing who they were, kind of a thing going on. But then Roger punches him in the helmet. Like, shit, you helmet. Dumb fuck anywhere else, man.
Hurt me. Hurt myself.
He punches him in the helmet, and somehow I think punching Helmet in the helmet knocks him unconscious.
Knocks himself out.
Yes.
They actually do a cleanup shot of this later in the movie where they show someone knocking him out with the gun. Like someone was like, Greg, I found that reel where the guy knocks him out after he punches Helmet. Should we just put this wherever the fuck we feel like it later in the movie?
Perfect. Why would you go for the unarmed guy in the helmet when the dude next to him apparently was carrying what looked like a submachine gun or whatever? Why not take him out first?
Right. And he doesn't have a helmet.
Do the big Shatner punch. Come on.
Yeah, obviously. So, okay, but then Roger wakes up in a dungeon and all of us are just like, our notes are all just question marks from this point on, right? Because suddenly there are Oompa Loompas. There's a dude who's painted green here.
Yeah. There's the mud farmer from Monty Python Holy Grail.
Yep.
This is like when we're at a live event and someone asks one of you two about the podcastiverse. They're like, so wait, I don't understand. The Wool Dasher Mizzle knows Manscaped, man? What do you guys you gotta ask? You gotta ask the schizophrenic Jew, man. We're just doing a podcast.
It's so fucking weird. So there's a guy who like looks like if you were trying to do a horror version of Alice in Wonderland that was also a porn, this character would judge her at some point.
Yeah.
Well, the whole thing was like one of those Christian hell houses. And if you don't know what hell houses are, to the listeners, these are Christian versions or church versions of haunted houses that they will, do in the month of October, except that all of the stuff that you're supposed to be seeing is real. And they have this obligatory like fake cave that's usually made out of garbage bags and spackle, and they throw people in red robes and there's a red and brown floodlight. And then they've always got somebody in bad makeup who does the obligatory devil voice where they're like, what should be done with the one who refused the mark? That's exactly what that scene did for me. I just thought, oh my God, I just went back in time to all of the hell houses we went through.
That's exactly what it is. This is all the leftover shit from the Hell House. Yeah, made it into the movie.
It's just like a debanking hearing, like Mark Andreessen had. And I heard that actually did happen.
You've been listening to the Joe Rogan.
The No Rogan experience.
Well, yeah, right. Yeah. Right. So, but then this is, I guess, his trial, right? They're like, we charge you with not having a tattoo on your face. And I'm like, well, pretty easy to find him guilty of not having a tattoo on his face, I guess. And they do right away. And they sentence him to death via...
Best weapon ever. This is almost my best words. This is so good.
Yeah.
It would look like something that Mario would have to run through, right? By the way, Seth, Mario is a character that runs up.
Stop talking. Stop talking.
He's an Italian, you see, Seth. He's an Italian.
It's like something Lode Runner would have to run through. Does that help?
But they have a swinging guillotine that slowly drops a little bit at a time towards your neck, but it's a pendulum. It's not going to like actually cut your head off. It's just going to slice it a little bit.
Yeah, it's just like a mezzaluna thing. Like
yeah,
the
right.
Hutter thing. But it's not even on like a normal like analog slow dipping device. It's like a ratchet thing. So it just goes down like a click, and it's like, nope, still not hitting his neck. Okay, one more click down. Nope. Now it's really close, I guess. 3, 2. Okay, now we got it. And then
cut his head off.
Somebody climbed to the top and hand painted 666 on the wood. Like, oh, it's not deadly until we decorate it.
Guys, what have I told you about branding the guillotine?
I'm looking at this thing going, all right, Jesus, how many moving parts are there? Just use Abraham's butter knife, because I think it'll be more efficient than what you're doing here.
Oh my God. So they do that. And then of course he wakes up. It was all a dream.
Because fuck you, Noah.
He does the sitting straight up thing.
If you're just joining us on the radio, it was all a dream. Don't worry about it.
There's a reason, by the way, that Christian apocalypse films are so focused on beheading. First of all, I think there's kind of a gore porn aspect to this. I think there's a lot of I think I mentioned this earlier, a lot of the apocalyptic preachers, I think this is their way of talking about the shit that they really get off on, but then they say, well, it's not my idea, but they really enjoy the sort of the dark side. But if you get into Revelation 20, it says, and I saw thrones and they sat on them and judgment was committed. I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for their witness to Jesus. And I think this is one of the reasons that we see axes and knives and guillotines and all these, sort of pit and the pendulum type contraptions to behead. I'm not sure why believers have to be beheaded, like it makes them more dead or something, but that's where that comes from. Also, a lot of people assume that 666 is actually in the Bible. And if you want some real fun, try to watch any explanation from any apologist on why it's gonna maybe be 666. So it's the number of man who was created on the sixth day, or it's Satan's mockery of the Trinity. So he doubled 3, or it's a triangle. And
what?
And that has scary pointy ends. And if you have 2 triangles, that's 666.
You know how when you're making fun of something and you fucking double it right in their face? It's like that.
It is insane.
What? I thought it was in the Bible. I assumed. I've read it and I just assumed I missed it.
It is insane.
666 is it's just, they just have to like make shit up.
No, it says it says like 600.
There's a reference, I think, in 1 Kings about Solomon. He had 666 talents of gold. The number, I believe, is in there.
Oh, okay.
But when it talks about the number of the beast, as I understand, there's not actually a direct link. So what happens is a lot of these seminary types get together and they start doing this game of Twister, where they're like, the beast as described in Revelation is sometimes described in Greek symbolism with the symbol chi stigma, which represents the value, which may have been 666. It's crazy.
So stupid.
So in our movie, our character's woken up now. He's realized that the rapture hasn't happened, right? So he calls his mom, just to make sure, just to doubly check. But there's no answer. So he rushes to church. Just in time, I guess. He storms in, everybody stops church. It's like the record needle scratches in the sermon or whatever. And they're like, Roger, what's the matter? He's like, looking for my mother at the church. I guess I could have just come in quietly to do that now that I think about it. But
if you're just joining us, your mom's taking a shit. She'll be right out.
I really wanted him to smash the window of the church.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, no, I said church twice. And
you want proof that this was staged, though? If anybody's been in a Baptist church, the first 2 rows were occupied in the film. In real life, no Baptist ever sits on the front 2 rows. I don't know why. If maybe it's for deacons, or they just want to sit back. They don't want to get the stare from some Byron Brimstone.
Right. They don't want Shamu to splash them or whatever.
You don't want to be like one of those nerd Methodists that sit in the front, right?
They have this guy. They actually find a seat for our hero, and they put him next to this creepy 70-year-old woman who can't stop staring at him. And I thought, I'm thinking to myself, she's rubbing on this guy going, I'd like to get the number to his beast. That's exactly what I was thinking in my mind.
So, and then the preacher is like, excuse me, I was preaching. Could everybody look at me? He actually says that. He's like, everybody look at me now again.
Please clap.
Yeah, right. He starts preaching again. And all my notes at this point are just like, oh my God, how did you people sit through this shit awake? Right? Like, how in the hell did you make it through week after week of this shit without falling asleep visibly? Right? But so he's preaching, and apparently Ron Ormond thinks the same thing, right? He's like, this is fucking boring. Let's flash back to earlier parts of the movie so that the audience can go, oh, wait, yeah, what was the point of the bus crash?
What was the point?
I don't know.
We never learned.
Why did we introduce Dimitri? What was that all about? Right? What? Yeah,
wasn't he supposed to become like the head of the UN or something like that in most of these movies?
So eventually, yeah. Was that part of the dream? Why would he dream about that part? He wasn't in it,
Of course, we would link a car accident on a dirt road to a one world government and the Antichrist takeover of the entire planet. I was not tracking.
We can all extrapolate that. They don't need to spell it. That's a good point. It's a good point. It's good writing.
Well, but so also, and the thing is, of course, obviously the bus crash was included because they'd already filmed that and they needed to use everything they could to get to that sweet 56-minute runtime. But they also needed to include this fucking montage, right? Of remember the movie? So we see a bunch of scenes of that. And then we cut back to the preacher for a second. He's like, it's like there will be a war between good and evil. And they're like, oh, yeah, no, that's another way we can pad runtime. How about 3 minutes of public domain war footage?
It's so weird because what we hear in the sermon is there's going to be this epic war between God and the one world globalist evil army or whatever. And then we see Vietnam stock footage.
Like they cut to a war that had finished 5 years earlier. Right. There will be wars that are already over.
Any minute now.
And why would the United Nations be attacking God with like regular weapons in Vietnam? None of it makes any sense.
Right. Yes.
I think it's like those old Tarzan movies. They'll show some actor and he's swinging on an obvious indoor set on the fake vine. And all of a sudden, to give an air of authenticity, they just cut away to some stock clip of a National Geographic clip of a cheetah running out on the savannah. It's awesome.
Yeah, so but we watch these war shots for so long, and eventually we resolve on this radio operator, and he's yelling for help, and he turns over one of the many dead bodies around him, and it's Roger with ketchup on his face.
Was the implication that he was himself a soldier at some point?
I don't know.
Maybe he was having a flash to the future
during the war against Jesus,
Satan,
which happened in Cambodia.
Right.
Which will apparently involve rocket-fired grenades. I'm very excited for that part of the Holy War. Swordmouth Jesus is going to have a hard fucking time if RPGs are part
He'll
of
just
it.
knock him back. He'll hit him back with his fucking sword. Yeah.
With his pickleball partner, Heath. And that's right, everybody.
So, but after having thought about both of those montages back to back, of course, Roger realizes it's time to give his life over to Christ. So he takes a knee right in the middle of the dude's sermon, I guess, right? And he has a personal moment with Jesus. We see Jesus marching into battle on his horse with all his angels.
Okay, this was excellent because we see that for a second. And then we get another clip from Vietnam there. So theoretically, Jesus and a squad of angels appear in the sky magically, astride beautiful white horses. And then one guy from the fucking United Nations Army shoots a bazooka at him. And everyone's like, dude, what are you doing?
I don't know. They couldn't handle chariots of iron last time. I want to see if a bazooka
God damn it, man.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
But Jesus stops the war mid-explosion. We actually see some explosions just freeze frame, and they're like, oh, it was Jesus who did that. And then Roger weepily apologizes to Jesus for not being Christian yet. he says through his tears, he goes, I don't want to die and go to hell. So his only stated motivation is fear, right? And then the movie winks at us. It's like, you probably don't want to die and go to hell either. Ha! The end. The end. And we get like Tim Green's contact info. He gives us his fucking LinkedIn. He's like, huh? Pretty good movie, huh? I'm still alive somehow. But that's it. So if you're not convinced, you won't be convinced. And Seth, thank you so much for letting us dredge up your old trauma for our entertainment.
Oh, dude, it's always so good to hang out with you guys. I learned a couple of new phrases that I will be never, ever using in everyday conversation today.
Or Google
Just
it.
not Googling.
Yes.
In fact, I'm going to erase them from memory if at all possible.
And definitely don't go to SethAndrewsCumGutters.com.
Okay.
No,
Whatever
stop,
you do.
stop it. Don't say it. I swear to you. You guys, no, what a real thrill to be able to hang out with you lovely people. And thanks for it. And honestly, this is fun for me. You know, Christian media is its own animal.
Mm-hmm.
And the Christian media of that era, mid to late 20th century stuff, is just so ripe for parody. And it's a great sort of a microscope into what drove fundamentalism in that time. As Noah mentioned it, a lot of it was about fear. These days, you get a lot of the Joel Osteen happy clappy, Jesus would never send anybody to hell or judge gay people or that kind of thing, this sort of Christianity light. But this speaks to what happens if you read the freaking Bible literally and preach it literally, which was so common during the Satanic Panic. And 1980 was right there when Michelle Remembers came out, a lot of the satanic type stuff, everything's the end times, everything's a sign. So to be able to go back and look at this stuff, it really does sort of peel back the layers and expose it for what it is. And I think that's a lot of fun sometimes. So thanks for letting me play along.
It's more fun when you're not living through the Satanic Panic 2.0. But yeah, it is a fun trip down memory lane.
And thank you for telling us about The Car. Is that the name of it? 1977?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I can't remember if it was a made-for-TV film or if it was an actual theater release. It is so 70s.
That sounds perfect.
It is so 70s. But The Car itself is awesome. It is awesome. And I think the whole film is on YouTube. But if you want to see just the creme de la creme of the movie, the scene that defines it, type in 1977 The Car cemetery scene. And you will see the power of God preventing a Lincoln Continental from driving over our heroes.
That might technically
sounds like
mean,
a Christian movie.
Yes, right. That we could do that one. All right.
Oh, you should do The Car.
He was sold at The Car.
You should do The Car. If you do The Car, you send me that link.
I'm Googling right now. It auto-completed to cemetery scene cum gutters, but I'll see what happens.
All right.
That's just because we're on the same computers.
The algorithm is wrong.
Depending on what websites Eli doesn't make, we'll try to get you back on if we ever do The Car.
There's a very intense wrestling match happening over my mouse right now.
Okay, that's the show, but I got to jump in here at the end. A few weeks after this conversation, God Awful Movies reviewed The Car. And I guess I'll throw that link in the show notes as well in case you want to go and why I think the whole film is on YouTube. It's just awesome. Okay, thanks so much for listening. Thanks to the guys for letting me rebroadcast this sucker. I'll see you back here next time.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter for a complete archive of podcasts and videos, products like mugs and t-shirts featuring the Thinking Atheist logo, links to atheist pages and resources, and details on upcoming free thought events and conventions. Log on to our website, thethinkingatheist.com.